As you guys know, I've been telling you AI is the greatest invention to mankind. This is the greatest invention I've ever seen in my 14 years of business. So what I'm going to do in this video is show you how to apply this to music production and to what we do. So the first application I recommend you guys try is simply, and I got this from Guapdad 4000, shout out to Guapdad, is simply make a dashboard for yourself. Just get as creative. Think of your dashboard as if you're creating a DAW for your business. And just think of every creative feature that you want. Don't even put expectations on it. Just say, okay, I want an email from my command center. I want to make thumbnails from my command center. I want to be able to have just anything you could think of. Just use this as your kind of splatterboard into AI. So Claude Code, this is a new, a new harness. Basically, what this allows you to do is you don't have to speak code, okay, in order to build stuff. Like, for example, I just had this thing fix the app not opening for today's visual, okay? Now it looks complex, but really I'm speaking in proper English. And when you really get down to what coding is a language. The same way you learn English or Spanish or Python, for example, is what I was learning from codecademy.com. It's just a language. And when you learn Python, it's like really addictive because it reads like the English language. And you're like, wow, coding is just communication. That's all you're doing is just communicating to the computer what you want it to do. So once you understand that, it's not that you need to know everything about everything about everything about everything. That the same way in music production, you don't need to know what a sine wave is to make a beat. All you need to know is if you run your sine wave through a soft clipper, it hits a little harder. If you run that spins 808 through a soft clipper, it hits just a little bit harder. You don't need to know how it's made, how it was sound designed, where it was sourced. That's what the code is for, is the building blocks. And people have thought about the building blocks way deeper than we will ever think about the building blocks. So this is what I love about Claude Code, for example. This is the greatest tool I recommend for you guys to get started. In the beginning, you might start with Claude Chat. Just start with Claude Chat and just talk to it back and forth. It will give you advice, whatever. From there, move to Claude Cowork. Claude Cowork can do stuff on your behalf on your computer, okay? And then from Claude Cowork, you'll be like, why not just go to Claude Code, okay? And then when you move over to Claude Code, it's a little more, I don't know, it just feels better. It's just more freedom. And then if you're really advanced and you want to be geeky, you can go to Claude CLI. But I don't even really use it because it's kind of hard to like do basic stuff like copy and paste an image. I have to find the file. It's just too much work. Okay, so that's why I like the Claude Code desktop app, and it's for PC and Mac. Okay, so let me show you guys. I mentioned in the last video, because people keep saying that AI is just useless in music, and I just beg to differ. I built a lot of things with AI in the last 20 days straight or so. So I forget where to find my streak. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, so here are my stats, kind of like my Spotify Wrapped, but for Claude Code. So once I found out about this thing, February 27th, I was on it every single day almost since, okay? So it says I had 54 sessions, 55,000 messages with it. We spent 12 million tokens, active for 25 days straight. It says current streak 0 days. I'm not sure why it says that, but my longest streak was 13 days. I was working 2 weeks nonstop. I was up from let's say I woke up at, let's just say I was up from basically when people say 9 to 5, like 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., I was up from 9 a.m. to 5 a.m. Okay, for 2 weeks straight. And that's how important this is. I want you guys to understand how important this technology is, and you don't need to be a geek to know how to use it. In fact, I think the dumber you are, the more benefit you have with this, because you're not trying to make it do stuff that, like, for example, a lot of producers struggle with Suno because they're trying to control everything. And I'm like, you don't need to get that crazy with Suno. Just type in 1970s Black Soul, call it a day. It doesn't need to be deeper than that. And some people are just trying to make it deeper and use all the features. You don't need to do that. Okay. So the same thing with Claude Code. I think the dumber you talk to it, the better, because it has to formulate on its own way of thinking. And anyhow, so that's my usage. And I've been using what's called the Claude Opus 4.6. Apparently the 4.7 is coming out soon. So God willing, that comes out soon, because that will be a beast to the market. So again, without further talking, let's go through real life use cases on how you guys can implement this. So first, thumbnail creator. There's a real website, thumbio.com. Let me show you guys. So Thumbio was helping me with my initial YouTube thumbnails and do a bunch of test ideas and all types of stuff. They have templates. The guy he updates this pretty frequently. And so he just tried to make it easier for YouTubers to make thumbnails. That was a huge bottleneck in tons and millions of people's workflow, especially mine. Okay, so he created his own system. Now, this is a commercial system to where you're licensing his thoughts, basically. Okay, so he knows how to code to a degree. I think he said he was coding since he was like 12 or something like that. He's another YouTuber. And he said, what's a big problem YouTubers have? Thumbnails. So he made a site. Now, making a site where you sell your services on the site is a little more complex than just asking AI. You have to understand how to host your stuff and how to, keep the data safe and all that. That does require a little bit of education. But the AI can help you through that. That's the cool part. You're not waiting for a human to ungatekeep to give you information. Now it's the AI has all the information. So there's no more gatekeeping anymore. And it will do it on your behalf for the most part. So this is a great example. He's built a professional commercial website where you can basically go in here and make thumbnails. That's, probably the perfect example is how to apply this AI stuff in real world use cases. Now, my little back-end thumbnail studio is just quick little templates. Now, what I have is different psychological triggers. So as you guys know, I study marketing, I've studied psychology, and I just love doing different angles. The same way we like making different type beats, I like to do different angles in marketing. So I have all the psychological triggers and all the different things here, and I can basically come up with a quick title. Let's go over here. So quick title generator, I could type in the keyword. The keyword I want to focus on is FL Studio. And then we'll say, okay, let's do scarcity, hit generate. And it gives me title ideas for YouTube. So instead of me trying to conjure up ideas all the time and break my brain, think like your Mark Zuckerberg, where he just picks the same shirt every single day. That way he's not wasting time in his brain using brain cycles on stupid decisions like which title should I use? Unless that's your job or your focus, these are menial things. We're just trying to get people to click. The content is the thing you want to focus your expertise on. So in this case, I would say, okay, the FL Studio trick won't work much longer. That's a very mysterious, urgency-based thing. And I would copy this and make a video about that, because basically what happened I'm creating my own vidIQ. For those who know what vidIQ is, I'm creating my own vidIQ. So instead of waiting for vidIQ and them upcharging for the tokens that they're sending to the same AI anyway, why am I paying a middleman who's eventually going to pay the same provider behind the scenes? So for those who don't know, let me pull it up. So most software works off of what's called APIs. APIs, for the long time, I always thought it was this foreign thing, but basically it's just like if you want a certain feature or a feature set in your specific app or the thing you're building, you could tap into APIs. So for example, in my thumbnail generator, if I want to upscale my images, which is a very common thing to do with YouTube, I would implement my Topaz upscaler. And the way you get get API keys is through different websites like fall.ai or Replicate, I think is one. Another one is called kai.ai. You don't need to the AI will even tell you where to sign up. You don't need to even think about that. But basically, let me show you the website. So instead of going to like a Higgs field or like these pre-made websites that give you all the solutions, which they do have their value too, sometimes you just want to access the model directly. So for example, fall.ai, I used to think it was confusing, but now that I've used it, it makes more sense. You basically just give it a couple bucks and you can choose which, AI model you want to tap into using the platform or the API key. So let's say you want to spend $1 on Nano Banana. Okay, you could do professional image generation. Sorry, I just ate something like super out of breath. But you could do professional image generation through Nano Banana too, using the API. So you could spend $1 on that. Then you say, okay, I want to spend another $1 on, where's it at? Seed Dance. Where did they put it? Where is it at? Oh, Seed Dance 2.0, which is the new AI video model. You'll say, okay, I want to spend $1 over there. So you get to pick and choose where you want to spend your dollars. It's almost like tokens on Splice, but for AI models, so that you're not spending all of your money on one thing. You're spending it across wherever you want. And that's what API calls are basically for. So what does this mean? It means, for example, for this little thumbnail generator, I could have Google Nano Banana behind it. I could have the new OpenAI, what is it called? GPT Image 2, which is about to come out soon. You could switch. There's no you're not reliant on one company to do all the work. It's like building a PC. You could build the shell of the PC and then swap out the parts. The same with your dashboard. You could have a dashboard to do very specific things, but then you could swap out the intelligence underneath. You're not bound to one company or another. And that's what API calls are for. And they give you the power to do cool stuff like get YouTube data into your app, do generation of thumbnails, remove watermarks. There's certain open source stuff for that. There's this thing called Keywords Everywhere, which I use for market research. You can add that API and basically do market research right inside your app for a certain amount of month or year, depending on which plan you choose. But like I said, the sky's the limit with what you guys actually build. And let me just show you guys how this works. So for example, if I wanted to create a thumbnail, I'd switch the angle. So I do like the FL Studio trick, won't work much longer. All right, now I didn't build this out 100%, so I'm trying to figure out where my picture would be. Let's do shocked, expression, serious, outfit, black hoodie, and then background. Technically I want a music studio, so not any of those. All right, boom. And then it does the prompt for you. So in the bottom, I don't know if you guys can see, but in the bottom here, it does a prompt. I need to tell the Claude to make this bigger so I could actually see. All right, and then you give it a reference image. Let me just load up my image. All right, so that's my reference image. Now I haven't even run this yet, so it could have an error being thrown, but it will work if you guys just simply plug in your API key. So I'm just hitting generate, and I'm gonna wait for it to generate a thumbnail. So it says connect the Gemini API. So let me do that real fast. So here's some examples of an API. I already had to connect it, so that means I gotta go back into Claude Code and tell it to fix that. Long story short, here's an API for example. Okay, you plug in this long sequence of strings, this string sequence, and you just drop it in. That's an API. All right, Google, basically image generation, analysis, deconstruction, you could do with just this feature. For the YouTube data, you could pull in YouTube data, you could pull in thumbnails, channel data, analysis, okay? Stuff you get on like vidIQ, for example. Keywords Everywhere, you could do research, SEO, you could do search volume. So again, that helps with your marketing because now you know what to actually chase and not waste your time making content that gets 0 views a month. You could, plug in APIs from OpenAI, Claude, Fall.ai, which I'm using for this thing called Topaz Upscaling. You could even use APIs for emailing. So what I'm saying is I can use this one dashboard to do the job of like 20 companies that I would have to pay for monthly. You can even have it run with what's called a local language model. I know I'm getting kind of deep, so I'm trying to keep it vague. But basically, you can download these free AI models to your computer so that you don't even have to pay for the intelligence every single month. So it gets deeper, and I know I'm generalizing here, but I'm just trying to show you guys the ideas. Now, for whatever reason, my API is not working on this one. But for example, if we go to the editor, just the other day, I removed the watermark. Let me see if I could do that again. All right, so here's a picture that we're using for our BusyWorks Beat Sampler library. It's called User Presets, and we expanded it using Gemini. So when you go inside of Gemini, it uses Banana 2. But the issue is it puts this little watermark whenever you use Gemini. So now I've added in an open source AI watermark removal for Gemini specifically. So here's the button that says remove watermark, strip the Gemini AI logo, because that's an issue that I have. And I used to have to go into Photoshop, highlight the area with a marquee tool, go to the remove tool, remove, export, do all these steps. And it's like I was paying $10 a month just to remove a watermark every single month. And I canceled my Photoshop because what am I doing spending money every single month on stupid stuff like that? Okay. So unless you're doing like really, really deep work in Photoshop, there's really nowadays with these tools I don't really see the point in those, but that's just my perspective. You can go to where it says remove watermark. Okay. And then click here and it's going to use the open source. And if you guys see right here, it just took away the Gemini logo on the bottom right, just like that. Boom. So just things like this. I know I didn't show you guys the thumbnail, but I showed you guys an example of a website that can do this, which I've done it many times. On Thumbio, for example, it can create thumbnails for you using AI and different, logic. So the cool part about a command center is that you can pour your curiosity into it without feeling like you have to ship something or deliver something to a customer. And this will be your kind of your playground, your forge for those who play Halo, for your use of AI. And it will be like your expressive way to understand it. And you'll realize very quickly, oh, this is why visuals are the marketing tool for AI. Because everybody's like, okay, this AI slop. But they don't understand that visuals help people understand how advanced AI is. Like when you see a dope visual, you're like, wow, that's AI. And then you're like, let me investigate this AI. I didn't know it was that far along. So that's what it's for, in my opinion, is to help you guys understand how far it really goes, because you're not going to understand databases and all that types of stuff. So you have to kind of start with what you can see. So what can this thing do? This is just a made up dashboard. This is all mock data. This is not real information. Okay, this is all mock data because I did not plug in my API keys just yet. But you can have your YouTube dash. You can have your monthly revenue being tracked here through APIs, through Shopify, Shopify just put out an AI toolkit, for example. You could plug that straight into your command center. You can have agents work on your behalf. Think of agents like employees. So just swap the word agent for employee. You could have virtual employees do stuff on your behalf. That could be customer support. That could be revenue tracking. It could be market research. It could be a gazillion and one different things. Okay. The main thing is we're visualizing our data. We're visualizing basically our stats. And so we can improve once we know how we're actually doing, for example. And it can even keep track of the usage of its own agents and different things. All right, so this is all, again, mock information, but it just keeps track of everything. Okay. And depending on you guys' goal, you can even have it to where it tells you the next thing to do in order for you to reach your goal, or it will do that thing on your behalf. Okay. So my unique idea was, what if I made a strategy map for Civ Rev? Because that was one of my favorite games of all time. And I said, my new idea that I'm working on is to make some kind of Civ Rev game out of my business. Like if I can visualize my business as Civ Rev, it will make so much more sense. So this is what I'm working on now. It's not chiseled out. I just did this last night. But you could do creative stuff like this, like turn my business into a video game and make me visualize what I'm doing in business so that I understand what I'm actually doing. So it has a battle room. It has a simulator. I don't know. It has Jake Cactus. I think he's under, I'll show you guys a different tab. It says simulator. Okay, it says Intel. Okay, it does SWOT analysis for you, it does scenarios. So like it uses advanced game theory to create hypothetical outcomes to know if something's worth doing or not. Again, this is not real data. This is all made up data. So they have monthly revenue. Okay, so it says courses, YouTube, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So a dashboard is so important in business because you need to know your numbers, and this can do it for you. I hope you guys understand it can do it for you. The AI will do this for you. And let's say your business is slipping, you're minus 3% this week. Well, it will tell you, hey, fix this specific thing. At least the things that it can see. All right, so here's the, now again, I didn't fully map out this dashboard. I just made this so I could show you guys. So here's the agent swarm or the agent farm. You could have it do different things. It could do beat analysis. Let me show you guys one thing. All right, so here's a unique example of how to use Claude Code for music producers. If you're a sound designer, for example, you can actually have it read FLAC files, WAV files, MP3, and it can analyze harmonic structures of the sound itself so that you can go back and recreate it or understand why it sounds the way it sounds. So I had to look at this bass sample from Serum because it was a very specific bass, and I couldn't figure out how to synthesize a realistic sounding electric bass. So I asked Claude Code, I said, can you break this down into the harmonics? So basically, how do we apply this? You go into Serum, and I'll show you guys the patch I created. So like I said, the use cases for AI is literally infinite. It's just whatever you guys can think of. But here, okay, so it gave me, okay, it says first harmonic 65 Hertz, 0 dB, meaning that it's all the way up, it's all the way turned up. So it says second harmonic. Okay, so I'm just going to this tab here. If you click this little pencil tool, it will open up the harmonic structure of a sound. So I'm building the sound from the harmonic structure. I'm not worried about the waveforms. I'm drawing in the actual information here, roughly speaking. Okay, so we have, it says negative 1.8 dB. And then I just copy basically most of these values. So by the fourth harmonic, I turned that one down, okay? And I was like, wow, this actually does sound like an electric bass, like a real bass guitar. It doesn't sound synthetic. Like that actually sounds like a real guitar. So this helped me convert my sound design knowledge into something that I've never really studied deeply, which is like harmonic structures of real instruments. So that's another use case. I'm just kind of throwing information at you guys because I want you guys to see how expansive this stuff is. There's real world use cases for this. This is not just some fantasy non-utility AI. Here are just some ideas. Now, what I use all of these ideas, not necessarily content creator. I use this for Shopify all the time because am I going to sit there and describe my own product like a copywriter? No, I'm not going to waste my time. This illustrious mastering compressor was divinely created. It's just like, I will be, because I'm very straightforward with my marketing. I'm like, here's a new AI mastering tool, busyworksbeats.com/AI mastering. But the content writer AI is like, this new illustrious AI mastering tool looks at the waveforms and the smooth, and it just gets very descriptive. And that's just not how I would talk. So I allow it to elaborate in a way that I wouldn't. You want to use AI to do the stuff you wouldn't do. Social media manager. I haven't had AI manage my social media outside of ManyChat. Technically, that is a bot, a chat bot. So technically, I do have an AI doing that. Thumbnail designer. I just showed you guys you can create thumbnails right inside your dashboard. Now, this is the one I'm hoping to solve soon. It's very possible. I just gotta create all the systems for it. But customer support. If I can have an AI customer support handle all the customer support, meaning not just answer emails like, thank you, whatever, but, answer the email, go into this system, pull this information, go into this system, pull that information using APIs and different things. Okay. And then going into all this stuff or however it works and do real work as if it were somebody who's on my customer support team. So that's what I'm really, really, really trying to solve. Okay. So for the business owners out there, you guys know how important it is to have customer support. And if you can have the AI do it, it's probably going to do a much better job than any human you'll ever hire. Like I just want customer support and fast. I'm not worried about if it's a human. In fact, it's funny in this story real quick. I went to Chick-fil-A the other day and it was this older black guy taking my order. And I'm like, man, why is it this like black guy? Cause now I felt guilty ordering Chick-fil-A. And I'm like, man, he's just going to judge me for my order. And it's going to feel awkward ordering. Like, I don't want a real person taking my order. I just want to feel unjudged. And in fact, I would even order from a robot if I could at Chick-fil-A. I just want to pick up my food, bounce. I'm not trying to talk to a real human. So sometimes having a system handle stuff is a lot more efficient for both you as the owner and the customer as well. So again, they have SEO, like literally anything you guys could think of, AI can do. These are just examples. It could do SEO for you so that you don't have to worry about learning that whole thing. It could do software management for you guys. It could do data analysis. It could do charts. It could do a bunch of stuff. As I showed you guys here, it created the charts, the same charts you would find on Stripe, the same charts you would find in your top, SaaS software, for example. Okay. So you guys can kind of get the gist here. We have the team thing. We have automations. You can run automations, meaning you don't have to necessarily sign up to a Zapier or what's the other one? N8N. You can create your own automation chain here. Now, would I be doing this sometimes? Maybe. I don't know. I haven't built that out yet. So it has a content machine. Basically, I didn't program this. This was pre-built. So it says making a hit beat in 10 minutes. So I guess this keeps track of like what's done, what's not done. So I didn't build this just yet. I just told it to build a template. So the title engine, this is where it uses all the psychological triggers and psychological angles to come up with different titles. So this is stuff you won't get on a vidIQ, because if you guys remember on vidIQ, it has, like 10 top ideas and then the rest are just like high performing and then the rest are just like whatever. And you run out of ideas very quickly. That's why everybody's doing the same video, because they're on vidIQ and TubeBuddy pulling from the same titles. So I said, why don't I create my own to where I'm not covering the same topics as everybody else? So I created basically my own title generator so I know what to talk about on YouTube. You guys got to realize YouTube requires volume. So once I cover the basics, sometimes I don't exactly know what to cover next. Like I said, thumbnail creator with an editor inside here. There's templates. You can even create templates for yourself. So again, this looks very non-filled out and very visual because I didn't build this whole dashboard out. But what you guys would do is you talk to Claude Code, you tell it to build you a dashboard, and you just spend 3 days just chiseling all the little nuances of your dashboard until it has the stuff that you actually want. That's the joy of this, is optimizing it and improving it over time. Okay, you can even have your asset library here where you keep all your pictures and different things stored. So again, you can basically have 20 companies in one dashboard, and you get to pay as you go as opposed to paying this exorbitant monthly fee. You can even tie in, and I showed you guys the APIs for sending emails, for example. You can have what's called a customer CRM. So for example, the API keys right here, you could tie in an API key from one of these companies. I plan to do this. I'm just not there yet, but there's Resend, there's SendGrid, there's Postmark. There's even Amazon. I forget what it's called, but the Amazon email service. And basically you can have your CRM. Okay. You could send emails from your dashboard. So you don't need any of these other companies. You could just focus on building your email list, stashing that into a database, saving that, backing it up on Google Drive or wherever you guys keep your backups. And now you have a direct relationship with your customer, because now you have full control over you talking to the people, instead of just this middleman company where you have to share an IP with tens of thousands of other people. So when you send emails, they're not actually going to the customer, they're going to the spam folder, because when you share IPs with other people, if they send spam, then Gmail thinks you're sending spam. Okay. So that's one reason why we use what are called dedicated servers, and which cost even more money, or dedicated IPs, which cost even more money. So you realize very quickly, I guess is what I'm saying, how much you guys are being, pimped by these SaaS companies. You'll be like, wow, I'm paying thousands for this, thousands for this, thousands for this, thousands for this, when I could have got this for $20 using API calls in my own dashboard. So that's what you'll kind of slowly understand over time. And I'm not an expert on AI, so that just shows you guys, you could take this way further than me. But the first place I recommend you guys implement AI is in your own business. I know this isn't the most greatest built out thing ever, but I just want you guys to start. Like, for example, some people ask about our plugins. So it can help with C++. It can help with really difficult coding. Like, for example, here it says, okay, we're using float numbers, meaning that floats are basically anything that has a decimal point. So it says threshold. You guys know what a threshold is. Okay, is it -20? Is it 0? Is it -40? You guys know what that is. You could just type in a value. Ratio, 4:1. Is it 2:1? Is it 1:1? No compression. Okay, the attack time. You guys know what that is. So it's like, you don't need to know what float space ratio equals. You don't need to know what all that means. You just need to know what the value is that you're trying to apply to that specific parameter. You guys have done this before. And just like, splice sounds, or I'm trying to think of something more familiar, plugin or whatever it is in music production, you don't need to know how everything is made. Like the LA2A, if you really think about it, has 2 knobs, y'all. 2 knobs on the LA2A. The attenuation knob and the gain knob. Okay, so it's not like you need to know what the threshold is, and know what harmonic distortion is, and know what feedback circuits are, and all this type of stuff. Just to understand an LA2A, you just turn 2 knobs. That's basically what coding has become. And it doesn't mean it's slop. Remember that coding is a language. You're using the AI as a translator. You have English ideas in your English brain. Most of you speak English who watch these videos, and you're talking to a computer that speaks computer. And you're just saying, hey, computer, I can't speak computer, but I'll have this translator thing translate to you what I'm speaking in English. The same exact thing. That's all it's doing, in my opinion. So those are just, the tip of the iceberg of things you guys can create. For example, I added JCactus just to see his stats, to see if my API was working. So you can add more people. I could say, okay, Curtis King, for example. I think this is tied up to my API, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't know why it's pulling blanks right now. But you see the picture just updated. So I don't know why it's not showing pictures in the drop down. I could type in Av McCree, for example. Now my other system is a little more elaborate than this. I'm just showing you guys the system I built last night. You could add Av McCree. So now his data goes on the chart. Bolo, shout out to Bolo. Bolo the producer. Whoops, spell producer wrong. Now, man, there's so much to teach you guys. I have to be simple. But what this does is now you don't have to use sites like vidIQ or viewstats.com. Now you could just use your own dashboard, and you could build it how you guys want. You don't have to wait on another company to make a change based on what you guys want very specifically. So now it tracks their views, it tracks you can get more in depth about this. So I'm not like tracking everything. It could track the engagement rate in the comments. It could track the last 30-day subscribers. It could track the last 30-day views. It could track trending videos. It could track views per hour. I'm basically creating my own vidIQ and view stats all in one night, y'all. I didn't even ask it that many questions for this. It has a trending tab, so you can figure out, based on topics, what videos are trending, opportunity gaps. So you can type in a keyword, it will pull up different opportunities for you guys that cover code. It has a terminal. Now this terminal is mock data because it still has the old username on here. And again, I didn't take this template from anybody. I just said, Claude Code, build me a dashboard. Oh, you know what I forgot to show you guys? Hold up. All right, so GitHub basically is open source stuff for the most part. So long story short, just type in Awesome Design MD. If I remember, I'll link it below. So basically they've done the work of, so here's what it looks like, awesomedesign.md. So if you scroll down, they've kind of reverse engineered different companies like Apple, for example, the typography, the spacing, the colors, it's basically like a brand kit. So if I go to Apple, they figured out how to make your website look like Apple. So this is the one I use for this dashboard, for example. Very clean, very straightforward, rounded edges, rounded corners, okay, stuff like that. So you can give this to Claude and say, Claude, you just give it these 2 lines. It tells you, copy this. You could even just say, Claude, here's a website. Figure out how to implement this. You don't have to know everything about coding to use this stuff. And that's the beautiful part about this, is that now millions of people can now do these really strange experiments. And now we're going to get novelty in the market, because when you kind of solidify, how do I explain this in like basic terms? When you centralize solutions, I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying that it's almost like the YouTuber who's like really dope in the beginning because he covers all this random stuff. And then over time, he only covers a small amount of stuff because it gets more views. And then over time, it kind of gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And then he starts talking about politics and money because that's the highest paying thing. Okay. So basically you'll notice that with content creators, they'll just kind of go from their niche all the way back up to money and politics at the end of the day. And so you lose out on all those other topics they were talking about. So that's what happens with centralized companies. They can't really change much if they want to grow. They have to keep doing the same thing and the same thing and the same thing over and over and over again. They don't have as much novelty. Okay. So here's Shopify, for example, where you can take their design as if you guys like their design. So basically this company figured out all these different styles from all these top brands, and you guys could just click on the one you like. For example, Tesla. Where's the Tesla one? Here's Tesla. Let's say you like the Tesla website. You can say, okay, use this as my dashboard style. So now it will become a little more graphic. To get your dashboard to look really, really, really clean, just add more images. It'll look more professional once you guys implement images. I know I'm kind of giving you a broad stroke of everything, but you guys need to understand that this stuff goes way, way, way deeper than what people are showing you guys. Like here's an app, for example, I built called BusyWorks Beats Chord Codes. This is based on my Chord Code system, my proprietary system at busyworksbeats.com, called Chord Codes, where I teach via number. And it's not scale degrees. I'm teaching via what's called integer notation, and I called it Chord Codes because of the way I go about teaching in my proprietary system. So now I can learn the voicing of my actual chords. So when I make exotic chords like this, I go, oh, I'm just playing a major ninth, but I'm voicing it where it's like the root note, then the 5th, then I'm playing the 7th, then I'm playing the 9th, and then I'm playing the 3rd and the 5th again. So you get to learn voicing, okay, with this app. And this is included in our black box bundle at busyworksbeats.com/black. But now I have a visual system for something I've been teaching for 14 years. Okay, I've been teaching this for well over 14 years. Actually, what's 12 years technically, sorry, not 14. Okay, so now I can do cool stuff. And I go, what chord is this? Oh, it's an F major's 13th chord. Now I can see how it's voiced. Okay, so now I can learn new voicings. And for this app specifically, I have all these different voicing styles, whether it's the drop 2 style or whether it's specific piano spread style. So for example, if we do a minor, let's do a minor, where's it at? Minor 9th chord. Okay, it will voice it in the way that I just showed you guys. So now I can learn new chords. So for example, we could have C in the bass. So I'm gonna go down an octave. Actually, let's go up an octave. So I can switch the octave, for example. It should change. So now I gotta know that there's a glitch here somewhere. I don't know why it's glitching on this one, but we just did this the other day. It wasn't glitching, so I don't know why it's glitching now. But anyway, hit octave 3. That's why it's in beta. Okay, so we hit here. Okay, it says play C. It says play G. Let me play it up an octave so we're not confusing this. So C, we have G. and then it's telling us to play D and D sharp, and then G, and then B flat. So I would have never thought to play a chord this way, like naturally. Okay, so now I can learn what to call voicings for chords. Okay, now it's just a matter of memorization of how to hit that actual chord. So this is a chord discovery tool as much as it is a chord teaching tool. And that's a system that I've created called Claude Code. Now this isn't 100% out, as you guys see. There's some little bugs here and there, like the octave didn't switch on that last chord, even though it worked a second ago. But if we switch chord types, let's see if it switches. So yeah, there's some bug here. I don't know what happened since then. But so yeah, and you guys can just like use AI as your brain dump of ideas and then have it actualize your idea. Try to be as bodacious and as crazy as possible with you guys' idea, because you never know. Just say, hey, Claude Code, can you make whatever? And just, if it says yes, then just keep moving forward until it builds out the things. Because like I said, AI is simply a translator from your English brain or whatever language you speak into the language of code, which is a language. That's all it is. You're just using AI as the way to translate. I have my own teaching tool for teaching my system, okay, which I never had before. I would have to do all this arduous stuff to even make that a thing. But now I can just give people this app and say, you want to learn chords? Okay, pull up the chord type. But you want to learn a major 11th? Let's do something I'd actually do. Minor 11th. And you want to write it at E? Here's the voicing for it. And if you want to switch to octaves, one day that will work, okay? But if you want to switch the voicing for it, you can do piano style, piano spread style. So E, B, so we have E, B, what is that? G, flat, G, and then B, and then D. These chords are kind of hard to play because it's like, you have to play it with the right fingers. So that's a chord I've never played before. And just like that, I can learn new chords. So this is a teaching tool for me. So I'm just showing you guys, these are real world use cases. Now my good ideas, am I going to show you guys on YouTube? Why would I show my competitors my great ideas? That would be stupid. But I want you guys to use Claude Code and just experiment. Just ask it things, ask it to revise things, ask it to move files, ask it to do anything you guys could think of. If you want part 2, I know this is kind of all over the place, but I just want to encourage you guys that this does real world stuff. This isn't just theory. This is actual useful stuff. All right, y'all, subscribe if you're new. Peace.